Hello everyone and good morning. It is a beautiful Sunday morning where I am at. The sun is shining and everything is blooming, and it's just a great day for creating and crafting and sharing. So I just wanted to share this little 6x6 mini album that I designed and built using an old using an older paper collection from Graphic 45 Floral Shop, and I just wanted to come up with a way to use my remaining 8x8 sheets of paper and a couple of 12x12s that I had. So this is what I came up with. It is just a folio slash mini album. I guess it sort of incorporates both. So I think the spine is about 2.5 inches, 6x6. Okay, it stays shut by the use of magnets. This is the front, just a bunch of Floral Shop ephemera, chipboard, whatnot, and some flowers and bling that I had in my stash. So like I said, it stays shut using magnets. So therefore these two are pretty plain, showcases the paper. The magnets are really strong, they're large magnets, so somebody could probably put pictures or whatnot on these two. So then when we open it up to its full spread, this spine houses the mini album pages, and this part here is more like a folio, I guess. So every page is a little different. So I have a belly band here to hold some of the ephemera that was left over. Okay, photos can go in the back here. Just tried to use up as much of my collection as I could. And then the front of each page, of each remaining page, I just wanted to showcase the paper. So here's another ephemera card. I can put a photo back there. This is a little envelope that came with the collection. I will get those in later. And then of course you can tuck stuff back here. Okay. Put more photos back here. You can tuck quite a bit of stuff back here behind this. Same thing. I love these. They're so cute. Okay. And then here, put a couple photos here, and then this opens up to reveal a pop-up. So you can put a photo here and just, some decoration. I fussy cut some of the design from the paper and use some other elements. Okay, so that's what that is. And then on this page, I created a little accordion pocket, and I put all the leftover ephemera that I had, quite a bit. And there's lots of room for more in there. So I am probably going to make this into a tutorial. I'm getting ready to start a baby album, but I'm going to turn the pages into pocket pages. It'll pretty much be this album, but it'll be a little bit different. So stay tuned if you're interested in seeing that. I'm just going to share it here. Okay, so go ahead and get out your chipboard, get out your cardstock, get out some Tyvek, and follow this guideline to cut your pieces. Pause the video if you need to, and then we'll move on. Okay, so go ahead and start combining your wrap pieces together. So you're going to take the left edge of one and you're going to adhere it to the right edge of the other. So just peel off a little bit of your score tape so that you can grab it. Go ahead and line your two pieces up. Use the sticky part of your score tape as your guide. line them both up directly on top of each other, and then you're just gonna pull your score tape backing all the way down, keeping the two pieces lined up together. And then you're gonna take your third piece, your smaller piece, you're gonna line the left edge up of that one to the right edge up of your larger piece. And this is your finished cardstock wrap. Okay, so then the next thing you wanna do is take your two pieces of Tyvek and apply full coverage score tape. And since they're 4 inches wide, you can just run 2 lengths of 2-inch tape. Okay, I'm gonna quickly show you how I wrap my cover. Okay, so you have your 2 pieces of Tyvek that are covered with score tape. Okay, if you haven't already, go ahead and burnish those really well. And then we're gonna take our spine and one of the pieces of Tyvek, okay? And let's go ahead and remove the score tape backing. And what we want to do is we want to go ahead and center our spine on top of our score tape, okay, on top of our Tyvek. So I like to do that by simply placing this into the corner of my scoreboard, which isn't easy because it's very sticky, but getting it lined up as best I can, and then I know that I will have this evenly lined up with the top edge. And you could mark the center of this if you want. The center, of course, would have to line up with the 2-inch mark. I'm gonna eyeball it. Most important thing is that it gets straight on so that this edge lines up with that edge and this edge lines up with that edge, which is very easy to do with your scoreboard. Okay, just like that. Okay. And then repeat with the second one. Okay, and then what we want to do, so we are just going to go ahead and keep attaching our chipboard pieces. So how we do this is we have our 2 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. One is the left, one is the center, and then the 6 by 6 is over here on the right. Okay, so let's set aside the 6 1/4 by 6. Let's set aside the 6 1/4 by 6. Let's set aside the spine, one of them, and let's set aside the center 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. So we're left with these two. And again, I'm going to use my scoreboard to line it up, okay? So basically all I'm doing is I'm just going to line up the edge of my spine with any number on my scoreboard. Let's just say 10. Okay, this is pushed all the way against the top, so I know it's perfectly straight. And then all that I have to do is line this up with whatever mark is 3 inches away. So in this case, 9 5/8. Okay, just like that. If you wanted to, you could take your ruler and you could measure, 3 inches away, make a tick mark, measure 3 inches away, make a tick mark, and then you could draw a line connecting those two tick marks. And then you have your 3/8 of an inch line, and you could just simply pop that on, okay? If that's easier. Okay, so 6 1/4 by 6 1/4 spine piece, and then 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. So I'm going to do the same thing. Let's see, I'll just line this up with, we'll line this up with the 5-inch mark. It's just because. Any mark will do. So this is pushed right up against the top edge of my scoreboard. The edge of my spine is 5 inches, so I know this needs to be, this needs to line up with 5 3/8. Okay. Next piece is our other spine, okay? Okay, so there we go. And so moving right along, we have our wrap, okay, with our nice textured side down. And in order to prepare this to get wrapped, let's go ahead and run some score tape. I'm going to take my 2-inch score tape. And I'm just going to go ahead and run 3 lengths. Okay, so just make sure that that's on really well. And I am going to put glue on here, like I said, but I'll only do it on the edges since I did apply full coverage. I just don't want the edges to come up. Okay, so we have our wrap with a nice textured side face down, okay? And we want to make sure that our 6 1/4 by 6 inches is on the right. Although I guess it doesn't matter because we could just flip it, but okay. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna remove my score tape from the whole unit. Okay, I'm going to get out my scoreboard, and I'm going to get out 1-inch strips of chipboard, okay? As my guide, okay? I want my wrap to go underneath it, of course, pushed up in the corners, okay? All right. So just on that first piece, I'm going to apply glue around the perimeter. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to stick that up into the corner. Okay. Just like that, okay? So that's stuck down. I'm going to apply glue around the perimeter of this spine. Oh, sorry, I covered the whole thing out of habit, which is perfectly fine. And then before I let that 3/8 of an inch gusset adhere down, I want to bring my paper up to meet it. Okay. And then we can stick down the spine. All right. So that is how I wrap, well, that is how I do the start of my cover wrapping. Okay, so you can burnish that really well. And once you burnish, you will be ready to actually wrap. Okay, so now you want to go ahead and add a line of your score tape around the entire perimeter of your album. You don't have to go straight to the corner because we're going to chop those off, okay? And if you would like to put score tape on the perimeter of your chipboard, you may. I don't do that, but if you want to do that, go ahead and do that as well. So again, if you do want to run score tape along the outside perimeter of your chipboard, go ahead and do that. I'm going to burnish everything really well. Okay, and then we want to cut off our corners. If you don't have a corner mitering tool, you can take 2 thicknesses of chipboard, line it up against your corner, take a pencil, draw a line, and just cut off at that line. Okay. Okay, and so then you want to conform each of your edges to each of the edges of your cardstock to the chipboard. So sometimes I will take my scoring tool and I'll do this, not too hard so as to puncture my cardstock. So you can do that along all 4 edges. Mostly I just do this. But yeah, if you want to score it first, go ahead. But this is how I get it to conform to the edge of the chipboard. Okay. Okay, so then I'm going to start with my sides first. Okay, first thing you want to do is make sure you have your very edges tucked against the side of the chipboard. Okay, and then I'm going to remove the backing of my score tape. I'm going to run glue against the edge of the chipboard, against the edge of the cardstock, and then I'm going to fill in right here. Okay. Okay, and then you just need to go ahead and make your creases, I guess, where your chipboard edges are. You want to conform your cardstock wrap against those. Okay, just like that. Okay. Make sure you don't apply so much pressure that you put a tear in your cardstock. And do that to all 4 gaps. And this is what you are left with. Yay! Okay, so next go ahead and take your 2 spine covers and take your score tape. I'm using 2-inch, and I can run 3 lengths of 2-inch score tape on each piece. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and cover our spines. So just center one piece of Tyvek directly over one of your spines. It's the same height as your album, so it'll be really easy to make sure the top edges and the bottom edges are lined up. And just center it over the spine as best you can. And then go ahead and gently fold all of your pieces and crease the cardstock into the chipboard edges. This is what you're left with. Okay, I'm going to show you how to attach the pages real quick. So here's your cover. Okay, this one is 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. This one is 6 1/4 by 6. So you do want that smaller cover to be on the right. Okay, so working over on the left, or I should say the left spine, you have 4 pages, and we are simply going to take each of the flaps and we are going to adhere them to the spine. Okay, and you do want your flap and then your page. You don't want to do this, okay, because then you've left no space there. Okay, so you want to take your flap here and you want to line it right up against the left edge of your spine. You can go a smidge away if it's easier. And because your page height is exactly the same height as your spine hider and your album, it'll be super easy to line up. And I am using glue because glue dries, therefore it'll give us a permanent hold. You could use score tape too, but if I use score tape, I would put glue as extra. All right. Well, the score tape would be the extra, the glue would be the primary. At least that's how I do it. Okay, I'm gonna bring this down so I can look directly overhead. Okay, let's see here. All right, so I've got this completely lined up. All right, it's just about a smidge away from the edge of the score, the edge of the chipboard spine. And then as you can see, my page is completely lined up here with the top and bottom edges of my book. Okay, just like that. I'm gonna burnish the heck out of this thing. Make sure that glue spreads all around. I'm gonna be more careful on the textured side. There we go. And then we can just take our next page and that'll line up right against the first one, okay? Perfect. Oh my. I have no idea how that happened. All right, I'll cut a new page. Okay, so yes, like I said, you just line up the second one. I like to do this just to make sure everything lines up. So both of my pages line up with each other and they both line up with the top and bottom of my album, okay? So what I'll do now is I'll just keep this one in place because I have it exactly where I want it. And I'll do this. Okay, and just go ahead and do that with the third and the fourth pages, okay? Okay, so getting started with page 1, go ahead and cut this piece of cardstock, and then you want to put the longer edge across the top of your scoreboard, and you want to score it 1/2 of an inch, but then you want to rotate it so that the other long edge is at the top of the scoreboard, and then again, score it 1/2. Okay, and then just take your belly band and adhere it to page 1, centered and running vertically. So use your ruler if you need to help you. Again, page 1, centered and running vertically.
Okay, and then for page 2, you want to cut 2 pieces as shown here, and then the piece on the top there, you want to put the short end at the top of your scoreboard and score it 1/2 of an inch. And then for the piece there on the bottom, you want to put the long edge at the top of your scoreboard and score at 1/2 of an inch. And for both of these, go ahead and fold on the flaps, burnish, and you do not need to miter these. Okay, so you now have 2 picture flaps. One is horizontal, one is portrait view and one is landscape view, I guess you could say. So go ahead and take your portrait view, the one that stands taller when the flap is on the left, and you're just going to go ahead and adhere that directly to the edge of page 2 and centered between the top and bottom. Once that's on, take your landscape picture flap, the only one that's left, and you're going to adhere that directly to the left edge. Make sure you open up the first one because you're not adhering it to the top of the first one. You're going to open up the first one and then adhere the second one to the edge as well, also centered. And this is what you have when you're done. Okay, go ahead and cut this next piece, and you want your short end at the top of your scoreboard and score it 1/2. Go ahead and fold, burnish, and you are going to miter the corners of this flap. So this is going to get adhered directly to the left edge of page 4. So we are skipping page 3, and you're just going to adhere this directly to the left of page 4. Okay, then go ahead and cut these 2 pieces, and for both of them you're going to line the long end at the top of your scoreboard and you're going to score it 1/2 of an inch. You are going to fold and burnish on the flaps, and you will miter, but you're not going to miter all 4 corners. So these 2 pieces are going to line up to the edge of page 6. So we are skipping page 5. They're going to line up directly to the edge of page 6, one at the top, one at the bottom. You may need to cut a sliver off if they're overlapping each other. You don't want them to overlap. You don't even really want them to touch. And then, as you can see here, for the one at the top, you want to go ahead and miter the top corner of the flap before you adhere it. And then for the one at the bottom, you want to miter the corner of the bottom flap before you adhere it. And then go ahead and cut this piece. Again, you're going to take the short end and you are going to put that at the top of your scoreboard and score it 1/2. You can fold and burnish on the score line, and you are going to miter both of these corners. And this piece is identical to page 4, so you're going to adhere it to the left edge of page 8. So we're skipping page 7, and you're adhering this to the left edge of page 8. And then you can go ahead and cut this piece. It's a large flap. You're going to place the longer end, the 6 1/2 end, at the top of your scoreboard, and you are going to score it 1/2 of an inch. Fold and burnish, but do not miter. And you're going to take this and you're going to adhere it to the inside center cover. Okay, so just adhere the flap to the very top edge of your inside center cover. And it's not quite the same width as your cover, so you're just going to center it between the left and right edges. Okay? All right, this is going to be the picture booklet that is on top of the inside center cover on top of everything else. So cut this piece and you're going to score it in half. So your long end is at the top of your scoreboard and you're going to score it 3 1/8. Okay? Now you can't adhere it yet because as you can see in this picture, you're going to need to put your decorative paper down on top of the large flap, and then you can go ahead and directly adhere this booklet to the center. Okay, then you want to go ahead and cut this piece 6 1/4 by 6 1/4. Still working with this inside center cover, go ahead and take your large flap and get it out of the way, fold it up so it's out of the way, and then you want to use whatever adhesive you like to use to take this piece of cardstock and cover that inside center, because you've got all these flaps and stuff happening, and you want to cover that and start with a fresh canvas before you put any kind of decorative paper down and decorate. Okay, we're going to do the same exact thing for the inside right cover, which is completely plain right now, but you do have all those glued down flaps kind of creating, bumps and whatnot. So take a piece of cardstock that measures 6 1/4 by 6 and simply adhere it down directly over that inside right hand cover and start with a fresh slate there as well. Then for the inside right hand cover, you want to go ahead and cut this piece here. take the long end and put it across the top of your scoreboard. You're going to score at 5, at 5 1/8, at 10 1/8, and at 10 3/8. So the long end is at the top of your scoreboard. You're scoring at 5, 5 1/8, 10 1/8, 10 3/8. Okay, and then you can go ahead and fold all that up. So all the folds are kind of, folding in toward each other, just like this picture here shows. And this is what your little envelope looks like once, it's going to look like this sitting on your page. And then what you can do is cut these two pieces, and we're going to use these to close up our little envelope. So with the short end at the top of your scoreboard, you're going to score at every 1/2 of an inch, and then go ahead and fold these two pieces like an accordion. Okay, to close up your pockets, let's go ahead and adhere one closure at a time. So take your first closure. Make sure your pocket lid is folded up out of your way, and the bottom section of your pocket is folded down and out of your way. Take your first closure piece and position it just like you see in this picture. So the bulk of the accordion closure is off to the right, and your first flap on the left-hand side is the one that you're adhering to the edge of your envelope. I keep calling it a pocket. But that first flap on the left, you're adhering down against the right edge of your envelope, okay? And just make sure your accordion is in this position. So starting from the left, the very first crease is a valley fold, and the very second crease is a mountain fold. Okay, and just glue that down, and I would line it up pretty close to the bottom of that section that you're on of your envelope. So there's going to be a little bit of space above your accordion closure. Go ahead and repeat for the remaining closure piece. So the flap that is all the way to the right is going to get adhered to the left edge of your envelope, okay? And again, starting from the right flap, the very first crease is a valley, and the very second one is a peak or a mountain, okay? And then you can just apply your adhesive to the very, fold in your accordion closures so that they're flat down, and then just apply your adhesive and fold up the bottom section of your envelope. Just make sure that when you're doing it that you are allowing the little, that little tiny, I don't have my paper in front of me. The little tiny 1/8 of an inch space there between the center and the bottom sections of your envelope. Just make sure that is standing straight up. Don't let it get pulled flat. So this is what you have, okay? And then you can go ahead and apply a set of magnets. I like to use 2, that way the right and the left edges of my lid don't kind of flay open. So just stick down a magnet to the left, as centered as you can between the top and the bottom. And then also stick down a magnet on the right end of the lid, centered between the top and the bottom. Just leave enough space around all sides of your magnets. And then I simply take the opposing magnet and let it cling in between an upside down piece of score tape, so that when I close my lid, that upside down score tape then adheres to the envelope. And again, when you do close your lid down, just make sure before those magnets adhere, make sure that the lid's spine is standing straight up and not being forced down flat. And then of course you are not going to adhere this envelope down onto your inside right cover until you've put decorative paper. Okay, once your decorative paper is down, you can go ahead and adhere this, and I have mine centered, but you can of course place yours wherever you would like.
Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do this right here, okay? So you have your album, and you've got your flap on, you've got your cover piece hiding all of those flaps and whatnot. You have this, which you may or may not have adhered. I have not put any scrapbook paper here yet, so my booklet is not adhered. And of course this is hanging out, but anyways, so what we're gonna do, this is where we're putting the pop-up, okay? So I have here a piece of decorative paper, which I'm actually not gonna be using in my album, but it's just for the purposes of showing you how to do this, okay? So it measures 12 by 6, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So 12 by 6, and of course if it is a directional piece of paper such as this one, because it's got text on it, just make sure that it's going to be sitting like this in your book. So just make sure that your directional images are facing the right way, okay? So you're going to score it in half at 6 inches, okay? So with the long end at the top of your scoreboard, you're going to score it 6 inches, okay? So then we can go ahead and turn it over to the side that will not be showing, and I've kind of drawn very uneven, a very uneven dotted line here to represent my score, my crease. Okay, so I have one of these rulers, which is extremely helpful and handy when doing something like this. I'm sure you can probably you can make it work without one of these, and I'm sure you can probably figure out how. Let me get a pencil here. So what we want to do is we want to draw and cut a line here and here, okay? And they should be 1.5 inches away from the edge of my paper. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this ruler and I'm going to make it so that the edge is 1.5 inches away from the edge of my design paper, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and pick any whole number. Let's just pick 14 because it's right there. And I'm going to line that up with my midpoint, okay? All right. Okay, so I've got my ruler edge exactly 1.5 inches away from the edge of my cardstock. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw a 3-inch line, okay? And I want 1.5 inches to be above the midpoint, and I want 1.5 inches to be below. So if 14 is here, then I'm gonna go, I'll go from 12.5 to 15.5. Okay. So I've got a 3-inch line that is, the halfway point is here, and it's 1.5 inches away from the edge of my paper. I'm gonna do the exact same thing on this side, okay? I'm trying so hard not to get my head in the way. I've realized up to this point you guys have seen much more of my nappy hair than you probably want to. Okay, and then we are going to draw 2 more lines, smaller ones here, okay? They're going to be 2 inches away from the edge of our paper. So 2 inches away from the edge of our design paper. And actually let's do this. So for these 2 lines that we've already drawn, let's figure out where the 1-inch mark is and make a tick mark. So we're just measuring 1 inches down, okay? Okay, so I just measured 1 inch down, made a tick mark, 1 inch down, made a tick mark, okay? So now we are gonna put the edge of this ruler 2 inches away from the edge of our design paper. Okay. And we are gonna start where that tick mark is. So I'm lining up the 12 where that tick mark is, and I'm gonna draw a line that is 2 inches, okay? So I'm starting at that tick mark and I'm going up 2 inches. Same thing. Let's make our ruler 2 inches away from the edge of this side. Let's see here. Okay, so ruler is 2 inches away from the edge of my cardstock, and my tick mark is just lined up with the 12 inches, so I'm going to start at the 12 inches and I'm going to make a 2-inch line. Okay, that's all you got to do. That's it. And then all you want to do next is you want to cut on each of these lines, okay? and you are going to score. You're going to score here, fold, score and fold. You're going to do it here. Basically, each set of lines is going to be scored and folded where they meet, like, you know, the ends. So the ends are going to meet by a score mark. So you're going to fold here, you're going to fold here, and you're going to do the same thing here and here, okay? And of course, you already have your mid fold already done. All right, so I'm going to cut mine. Okay, so I've got mine cut, okay? So those 4 lines are cut. And then however you want to do it to be able to fold perfectly, fold nice and neat, these score lines. And like I said, this paper is just for demonstration purposes. I won't be using it in my album. It's very, very thin. But even if it were a regular thick piece of decorative paper, I might recommend you doing this, because it's really hard to line it up on your scoreboard. It's really hard to get the line where you want to fold perfectly in a groove. So I'm gonna do it. I know this will work for this piece of paper because it's so thin, but I think I will do it this way when I have my actual piece of paper. All right. Okay, so this is what we have, all right? So I do not know how easily you can see this, but basically, the very top fold is a valley fold. All of these folds are valley folds except for 2. So this is a valley fold. The itty bitty 2 right here are valley folds. This is a valley fold, and this is a valley fold. Your only 2 mountain folds are the folds that go straight through the center of your 2 pop-ups, okay? So hopefully you can see that. I know there's a lot of black and white going on. So every fold here is a valley fold, including these 2 little ones here, 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 and here. The only 2 mountain folds are the 2 folds that go straight across the center of your pop-ups. Okay, so that's what you have. And if you have any trouble getting this to fold flat, then it could mean that when you were drawing your lines to cut them, that they might not be quite even. Like, for example, the one on the right could be a 1/16 of an inch higher than the one on the left, you know. So just make sure you're trying to be as accurate as you can when you're drawing your lines back here, okay? So you can get your album out. And the way that you want to glue, the way that I recommend gluing this is, you know, of course you're first going to dry fit it in here, okay? And you could decide that you want to trim a tiny bit of paper off of the edges. I think I will trim certainly I will trim a tiny bit off of one of the sides. Okay, and so the reason that you may have paper sticking out from the bottom is simply because this fold cannot sit perfectly in that fold. It's just not possible. Naturally, it's going to push the decorative paper down. So you may decide that you want to take a sliver off of this edge as well. It's up to you. So go ahead and do that now if you want to. But in any case, when you are ready to adhere this, and I think I will take a sliver off of this. Actually, let me do that. So basically, you know, fold your large flap shut with this decorative paper inside, and, you know, push the decorative paper up so that it's nice and snug in the fold as much as it will go. Okay, dry fit it as best you can, and then what I would recommend doing is once you've got it exactly where you want it, Make sure that decorative paper doesn't go anywhere, okay? Holding that down, very, very, very secure. And then take your adhesive, and of course glue is gonna work better in this situation. Because it's very hard to apply score tape when you're trying to keep it where you want it. So then you would put your glue everywhere except, you know, except here. Make sure it doesn't go, you know, on that piece or on that piece. So you would put glue everywhere else, okay? Very generous glue. And then making sure that stays exactly where you had it, you can bring this down, adhere it, burnish it really, 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 really well. And then that is stuck in place. It's not really for me because I'm not using this paper, but if for you, it would be completely stuck in place. So all you would have to do is lift this up. You would apply your adhesive everywhere there, and then take the whole thing and bam. And then when you open it back up, that is what you would have. Absolutely beautiful, okay? Beautiful, beautiful. And yeah, you are gonna have a bigger border down here because I don't have any decorative paper bigger than 12 inches. So you could always put a sticker down here. You know, you could take a border sticker or something. You could even start out with a paper that's maybe 11 inches instead of 12 inches so that it would end right about here. And then you could do like another 1.25 inches of a different kind of design paper down here. You know, use your imagination, whatever you'd like to do. And then to put pop-up pieces on here, all that you need are strips of decorative paper. So I will use, okay, and then to get your pop-up pieces, so I'm a fan of actually adhering pieces directly to the front sides of the squares, okay? Just like you can see in this album here. You know, all of this is adhered directly to the front of this lower pop-up square, okay? And I even have 2 little stamps adhered to the front of the smaller pop-up square. I actually didn't use any strips except for these 3, which I kind of did them wrong, but so I, you know, cut a bunch of pieces of decoration and figure out where you want where. And then if you do want to do any behind the pieces that are adhered directly to your squares, you're going to use strips, okay? And I would use the same decorative paper as this so that it blends in very well. So all you're doing is using a strip just like that, okay, or a rectangle or a square. These 2 edges are identical and these 2 sides are identical. And then what you'll do is you'll do that, okay? So hopefully you can see that. I can't really tell. Okay, so you'll do that. And basically play with your height. So the height of your strip, when you have it shut like a rectangle, the height of your strip is going to be how far up you know, you want the piece that you glue to this to sit. And you always want to check before you adhere things. You always want, you know, you can go ahead and adhere your strip down. There's no way that's going to show past your page unless, you know, if so, you've definitely done something wrong, and it would be very obvious. But once your strip is glued down and you have your decorative piece on here, don't adhere it permanently until you fold everything down and make sure that that decorative piece doesn't pop out of your page. I feel like I am doing a terrible job explaining this. Hopefully you're following me. I'm sure there's other videos out there to do these pop-up pieces. I've just never found one, so I kind of figured this process out on my own. And if you saw my bird watcher album, you can go watch that video. I explain this whole process in that video as well. So So yeah, see this, in this album I used strips. So I did glue decorative pieces directly to the front of my pop-up squares. Most of them, that's how they're adhered. But then for this little section here, they are glued to strips because I wanted some more dimension. I didn't want them stuck to the back. So to give them some dimension, I used these strips. Okay, and I did have to be very careful that once those strips were once the decorative pieces were glued to the strips, that when I closed this, and as you can see, I mean, it is right, well, as you may not be able to see, but a lot of these pieces here are right at the edge of my paper. I couldn't have gone up even a 1/16 of an inch or they would have come off the edge of the page. So I really do hope that I was able to explain that adequately. I feel like I didn't do a very good job explaining that, but so that's what you do. And yeah, just play around with, your, every strip is going to be scored 3 times. So you've got 4 sections. These 2 sections will be the same width, and these 2 sections will be the same width. And the width or the height really just depends on you. How far out from the back do you want your decorative piece, to which you will adhere to this? How far out do you want it from the back? If you don't want it that far out, then you'll make these 2 sections a little bit smaller, okay? And then how big is your piece? Like, do you need a lot of height? If you do, you'll make these 2 bigger. Of course, you don't have a lot of height to play with. Like I said, you don't want them sticking out the front. Okay. And then at that point, if you have not already, you can put your decorative paper here and then put your booklet down, okay? And then for this side, put your decorative paper down, put your adhesive here, and glue that down. You can put paper here. I would definitely recommend putting paper here. That's a 2-inch section. You don't want to leave that plain. And then for the rest of your pages, just, have at it. Do whatever you would like. Very self-explanatory. I left the backs of each of these blank for pictures, but you could do whatever you wanted, okay? So I hope you enjoyed. I really have been enjoying making these tutorials. I've been scrapbooking for 15 years. I have done literally hundreds of albums, but I don't know. I haven't had the courage to record until just recently, so hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will share another project very soon. Take care.